Now you have Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero from NFL Network reporting yesterday as things are about to kick off across the league that Jim Harbaugh is not going to receive some safe harbor with the National Football League if he wants to return as a head coach there. If college and the NCAA and Big Ten and whoever else come over the top with some type of possible suspension, giving the sign stealing and the rule breaking that has taken place allegedly, but I mean, there's plenty going on with video that has surfaced and more involving Connor Stalions and whether or not Harbaugh knew. Nonetheless, it is this simple. Harbaugh would possibly, the league source says Harbaugh would need to serve some or all of any possible suspension he could face in college if he returns to the pros. This coincides with another report around the same timing from the Wall Street Journal that Michigan had pulled the new contract offer that they had slid across the table to Jim Harbaugh amid these NCAA investigations. Now, he has said that is absolutely not true, and that from the Wall Street Journal. But Chad, this goes beyond just, this is his final year. Are they going to be able to serve or send out discipline to Michigan, to Harbaugh, to the program, to what we've seen, given the nature of the sign stealing and what they can or cannot prove? This goes to suspended from the game itself if the NFL is also going to leak to NFL Network employees and reporters that they're not just going to allow him to skate back to the league if things go awry, given the allegations of sign stealing and knowing what the league did with the Patriots not too long ago.
Well, and Jim Tressel is another issue that was cited that's a direct correlation. Hilarious to think back now to all the trouble that Terrell Pryor and Jim Tressel got into with the tattoo stuff.
Yeah.
Considering that now we live in a world of NIL where no one would have cared one way or the other about any of this, but it was a huge scandal at the time. I look at this and think 5 years from now, are we still going to be saying this is a huge scandal? And I think the answer is yes, unless it can be proven that there are a bunch of other programs doing the same thing, which no one's stepping forward and saying that. And even those that say, sign stealing goes on, but I've never heard of something like this, where you go to this level of buying tickets to 30-plus games and going and filming signals from either side with what Connor Stalions is alleged to have done. 2011, the Indianapolis Colts hired Jim Tressel as a game day consultant, and they did not allow him to coach until week 7. He had a 5-game suspension through the NCAA, but then he was gone at Ohio State, so they would not let him coach until week 7, but they didn't call it a suspension. Just mysteriously, the NFL said, you'll start in week 7. So that could be the case here, where it's sort of a unspoken about yet agreed upon punishment if someone decides to hire Jim Harbaugh, that he's either going to sit or get blackballed from the NFL. That's what we're talking about here. If this report from viable NFL reporters, it's true, he's blackballed. That's an agreement amongst the owners not to hire Jim Harbaugh because of whatever punishment he's going to face at Michigan. And it's looking more and more like he's definitely going to face some punishment. And so is the University of Michigan, with all the mounting evidence against Jim Harbaugh in this program. So that is one thing to consider about his NFL future. Now, in the press conference today, when asked about the contract offer being rescinded, he was a little bit wishy-washy, and he said something like, I wouldn't call that accurate, but I also can't talk about contract issues. That's a university policy. We can't talk about current contract or possible future contracts.
Until they're done.
I hear that as that's not a direct refuting of the story from the Wall Street Journal. This is more semantics. Maybe they've paused. It's not rescinded, but they've stopped negotiations right now, and that's just him saying, I wouldn't call that completely accurate, the story. Not absolutely not. None of that. So do I believe the Wall Street Journal report? Yes. I think that whatever was on the table has been halted, given the latest news with Jim Harbaugh and this Michigan program. Look, Jim Harbaugh is 59 years old. If you are Michigan and you were looking out and saying, what is the worst case scenario? I've said throughout, worst case scenario is you can't employ Jim Harbaugh anymore. Either this runs him off to the NFL where he takes a job, and or it's so damning for him in the program, you have to fire Jim Harbaugh and move forward. Why is that the worst case scenario? Well, because Michigan's beaten Ohio State 2 years in a row. And because right now they are in the driver's seat for a possible college football playoff spot for a second straight year. Program's rolling. Recruiting's going well. They look great on the field. You don't want to replace your head coach when that happens. But if you are forced to replace your head coach, I'm going to give you the name right now. They should replace 59-year-old Jim Harbaugh with. It's 59-year-old Lance Leipold from Kansas. You want a guy with a squeaky clean image that has won everywhere, that can come right in and pick right up with the current roster and continue winning, and a guy that's probably looking around and saying, how do I get into the Big Two? Forget about Power 5. It's a Big Two right now. Big Ten, SEC. If you're not in one of those two conferences, you're looking over your shoulder or you're looking straight ahead at a better opportunity. Michigan is a way better opportunity than Kansas in football. And I just watched Lance Leipold beat a top 10 opponent at Kansas for the first time in that school's history since 1984, when they beat Troy Aikman in Oklahoma that year before transferring to UCLA. Lance Leipold's an awesome coach. I think Michigan could do not much better than 59-year-old Lance Leipold if this continues to go down this path.
And I think Harbaugh knows it's going to continue to go down this path. I mean, just beyond the comments about the contract offer being pulled from the table and saying, he doesn't necessarily agree with it, but wouldn't just outright deny that it happened. But he also doubled down on the statement when asked whether or not it's a head coach's responsibility to know everything that's happening within the program. And the brief answer that he gave today, I think that question probably answers itself. I was forthright with the statement right away, but you're asking, I'll just leave it at that. And the statement he's referring to is what was released, 10, 11, 12 days ago now. Quote, I have no awareness of anyone on our staff having done that or having directed that action. I do not condone or tolerate anyone doing anything illegal or against NCAA rules. That's part of the paragraph statement. And then he starts by saying, I want to make it clear that I and my staff will fully cooperate with the investigation into this matter. I do not have any knowledge or information regarding the Michigan football program illegally stealing signals, nor have I directed any staff members or others to participate in an off-campus scouting assignment. How does he not know about this? And the difference between Harbaugh and Tressel would be the head coaching opportunity. And how far does the suspension go? Is it just games, or is it behind the scenes where he can't participate in an off-season until that suspension is served? So if it's 7 games into an NFL season, is that where he picks up? Because I doubt that any team is going to go by those restrictions and hire him just to get him midway through the season. You would have him for 1 game right now if we're just using this season as an example of a possible 7-game suspension into the league, Chad.
I think that, first off, with the new NCAA bylaws and the way they're constructing punishment now, it doesn't even matter if he doesn't know. It might matter for Jim Harbaugh's NFL future if he can viably prove that he knew nothing and play this dumb card the whole time. Maybe that helps him for a future job. But with what Michigan is going to have happen to them and what Jim Harbaugh could have happen to him, doesn't matter one bit. Now, the NCAA could say after a lengthy investigation, we found no evidence that Jim Harbaugh was contacted or directly knew about it, but he should have known. That's always going to be the but at the end of this. But he should have known. They hired Connor Stalions. Other members of his staff all knew about it. He should have known, even if we can't prove directly that he knew. This is spiraling in the wrong direction right now for Michigan. I think Jim Harbaugh's comments even starting to spiral in the wrong direction for a football team that's headed in the right direction, because there's no sign of stoppage with Michigan football this year. They have been a wrecking ball through a weak schedule so far that's going to pick up here soon enough. But still, it's a possible national championship team that could get derailed and the whole program get derailed because of all of this that's going on around the program. There's only one real way to negatively affect Michigan and hit them where it hurts. Well, there's 2 ways. One is going to happen. Their coach is not going to be their coach anymore. It's not going to happen during the season, I don't think. But after this season, I'm pretty sure Jim Harbaugh is probably done at Michigan. whether he goes and leaves himself for the NFL or Michigan has to make a change. That's one way to hurt them. The other way to hurt them is to remove their eligibility from this year's college football playoff. That remains the big question, Hutton.
The only way to do this, we'll get into the ways to show discipline or enforce discipline. One includes a long, drawn-out process. The other, maybe not. But, Chad, every day there's new information with this, new evidence or alleged evidence. And the very latest is Chad's costume is spot on, where allegedly Connor Stalions is seen on the sideline of the Central Michigan at Michigan State game to open the regular season on September 1st last month. And he's on the sideline, goatee, sunglasses at night, and he's standing with a visitor's sideline pass, visitor coach's staff, with the pass around his neck, hat on, sunglasses at night, goatee, arms crossed, next to the offensive line coach who's signaling plays. It's also got the director of recruiting nearby. And, Chad, he's on the visiting sideline against a future opponent that they're playing, Central Michigan playing Michigan State. And at least on the FS1 broadcast, anytime that when the play would end towards his area, the person would cover his face. This continues to mount. And the question is, what happens next with the story? And also, is there enough evidence to enforce discipline? From the NCAA's perspective, just based on the timeline, even though they act like they try to speed up the process of investigations and enforcement, they really don't. It takes a while. It would be a notice of allegations, notice of investigation, and then one of four different things could happen, from Michigan accepting penalties, self-enforcing penalties, appealing, multiple things. That takes a while. We're way, way past the college football playoff by then. The Big Ten, though, can act. And there is a committee made up of the Big Ten presidents, ADs, that would vote to enforce a possible penalty that Tony Petitti, the commissioner, could lay out and direct. They can't add to the discipline, but they could reduce it. They could also approve it or deny it. But here's the thing. Once it is approved, any discipline there is from the Big Ten's perspective, Chad, there's no appeal process. It's enforced. So that is really the only way that we don't see Michigan being a part of the postseason. And it's not going to be, we get the college football playoff rankings for the first time this evening. The committee, taking a glance at who's making the rankings tonight, really the top six is what we're going to be really dialed in on. I don't think they enforce anything off the field here in how they view the Wolverines football staff. I don't know how you come down on this, Chad, but if I'm on the committee, I'm basing this on what's in front of me and allowing the investigation process to play itself out. And when they're not eligible, they're not eligible. Until then, they're in the playoff. And I'm eager to see where they rank with the top four, because I don't think they're outside of the top four. And if they are, that is a glaring signal that the committee's doing more than what they have to do so far. It's made up of ADs from Houston, Kansas State, Kentucky, Marshall, Miami of Ohio. Ward Manuel, the AD at Michigan, is there, as well as Navy, NC State, Nevada, Notre Dame, Rutgers, and Washington. Boo Corrigan, AD at NC State, is the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee. When the rankings come out, he's got to be asked about what's taking place off the field with everything going on around the sign-stealing saga and scandal with Michigan. But I don't see this selection committee playing judge, jury, executioner until they're told, based on discipline, that they're going to exclude the Wolverines. Until then, we're going to see the Wolverines in, and they're good enough to win it all this year, Chad.
Yeah, and I keep going back to this. It's mounting evidence now, right? I mean, whoever waited this long to really lay the hammer down on Michigan, it actually looks to be a smart move, because they allowed them to continue acting in this way as if they were undetected when they really were detected. And now there's all this evidence. We've been showing you the Connor Stalions on the sideline at a Central Michigan State game. I keep going back, and this is a question being thrown about in our YouTube chat right now. Is Michigan really this stupid? Were they this brazen? I mean, you've got a guy that's a member of the staff that's on the team website, decked out in Central Michigan coaching gear on the Central Michigan sideline as they're playing Michigan State, one of your top rivals. Hutton, I'm with you. I don't think anyone's going to act before the end of the season, but this is where you hit the Wolverines where it hurts. If you take them out this year, because right now it's all about this year. They have a team on the field. Now, we can argue how much they're being aided by stealing signs and all that, whatever. The fact is, with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, with this roster, with this schedule, they have a very good chance of winning a college football national championship. And that's all that Michigan fans are concerned with right now. So if you really want to negatively affect them and show that this is not right and you can't do this and you can't go beyond the rules and negatively affect not just the team you're playing but possibly other teams in other games. By the way, we don't know if he's just scouting in this game or if he's actually trying to help Central Michigan beat Michigan State, which goes back to what I was saying before with the South Carolina allegations. It's one thing to just help your own team. It's a very different thing to orchestrate intelligence to negatively affect games not involving you. At that point, this is espionage affecting all of college football and not just Michigan Wolverine football. This is bad. This is really bad. And we got photographic evidence again of Connor Stalions at a game. Here is where other conference members can step in if they're really angry about Michigan and force someone's hand. Purdue, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State. I'm willing to bet those 4 programs, we know a couple of them at least, are of the 13 of the 14 that have been illegally scouted by Michigan. If one or multiple of those programs just come out and say, we're not playing them, we don't feel safe, we don't think it's right, we don't want to play this game, and they're public about it, what the Big Ten will likely say is play the game or you forfeit. But it at least makes them say something about Michigan. It makes them put something on the record. And they could make things very uncomfortable if someone just comes out and says, we're not doing it. Or if all of them say, we don't want to play Michigan based on what we know and what we've seen and the evidence collected. Don't think that'll happen, Hutton.
No.
And I think if it did happen, the Big Ten would just say play it or forfeit. But I don't know that we're going to get any big statement because they're going to hide behind the cloak of ongoing investigation. We won't comment further until we have more information or the investigation is over. That's what everyone is going to attempt to do here. If I'm a team that's already played Michigan or I'm going to play them, I don't accept that. I don't. And that's what it's going to take is someone stepping up and saying, yeah, that's not going to work here.
So the story has gone from Stalions being in the stadium, purchasing tickets, to now being on the sideline. This is the first report and hard information on this. And at least if the Michigan fans on social, some at least, are still saying it's not him. Central Michigan is investigating who this was and how he got on the sideline. They're admitting they have no idea who this person is based on their staff that would have traveled with them this season. And this was the day before Michigan opened their season against East Carolina. And a part of all of this, Chad, is he's decked out in Central Michigan gear. There are staff members with Central Michigan that have ties to the Michigan staff. And, yeah, the saga continues. It continues to mount, and we're not near the end of the evidence that will continue to pour in.
Yeah, let me also say this.
Daily occurrence.
Central Michigan needs to get in a lot of trouble for this, too. Because there is no way that people didn't know who he was or what he was doing. They're every bit as guilty as Connor Stalions in this whole thing. So, not that as many people care about the fate of Central Michigan, but Jim McElwain and that program need to face some sort of punishment for allowing a Michigan staffer to give him Central Michigan gear and put him in a spot where he looks like a coach on the sideline as they're playing Michigan, one of their biggest rivals. They need to be punished as well. And honestly, that photo to me is enough to punish them. Unless someone comes out and says that's not Connor Stalions, which no one on any side of this has claimed yet, Central Michigan needs to face some repercussions as well.
And Michigan State didn't find out about this today, by the way. The report states that they've known about this and they have been in talks with the NCAA about it previous to this report today.
Yeah, they've been cooperating with the NCAA on it.
Yeah, Central Michigan AD Amy Folan released a statement on the matter saying the university is looking into whether Stalions was on the sidelines that day.
Well, and if you remember, some people were making fun of it at the time, but Michigan State took over 24 hours when informed by the office the week of the game to decide whether or not they wanted to play, that they were considering not playing the game with the information they had. Well, this is part of the information they had.
That's right.
That they had already tried to negatively affect Michigan State by being on the sideline for Central Michigan. I'm telling you, this more will come out, and there is going to be a documentary one day, and Connor Stalions is going to tell all, whether it be a book, on a Netflix docuseries, or whatever it may be. This is bad. Connor Stalions may shut up because he loves Michigan football so much, but he's got no future in college sports or football. So he's got nothing to lose if and when he wants to tell his side of the story and explain to the extent they went to not just orchestrate something on behalf of Michigan, but sabotage other programs that could affect Michigan. This looks terrible. We can say this every time. We'll wait for the investigation to finish. There's going to be more information. Michigan saying nothing. But on its face, that image of Connor Stalions in sunglasses on the Central Michigan sideline, a Michigan-paid staffer wearing Central Michigan gear in a game against one of Michigan's biggest rivals, this is a dumpster fire right now at Michigan. And I will reiterate this to everyone I know that's ever worn maize and blue. As a fan or a player, don't give me this crap about Michigan man ever again. Ever. You have lost that right for eternity. No such thing anymore. You're just like the rest of us. You're like the rest of the grimy world of college sports that is win and nothing else. You're no better. In fact, right now, you may be far worse.
And keep in mind, this story will get far worse because Michigan State has known about this. They've been in talks. They've been cooperating. Michigan allegedly pulls the offer for the contract extension with Harbaugh, which he's denying but not really denying. There's a lot of info and detail beneath the surface that has not reached the media yet. We see Connor Stalions, or believed to be Connor Stalions, on the sideline for Central Michigan in what surfaced yesterday from the September 1st matchup with CMU on the road at Michigan State. He's decked out in CMU gear and wearing the hat, sunglasses on a night game at Michigan State. And as Josh Pate points out on social with a video, and we're showing a screenshot here, Pate points out the blue dots on those shades, wearing those shades well past sunset. And the blue dot is a flashing blue dot, and it appears to be the $300 Ray-Bans with the camera on the top right corner of the lens of the shades. Chad, there's other screenshots that were posted of the video from the FS1 broadcast where he's carrying a clipboard on the sideline, and I think it's also important to note that. Can
we zoom in on that clipboard? That's what I'd like to see. Yeah. You've got to have someone that's got the ability to pixelate that thing well enough where we can read exactly what's on the clipboard.
And apparently it's nothing on the clipboard, at least in that point.
Maybe this is pregame.
And here's the other thing to point out. So you've got Central Michigan gear on all of the staff, right? He's got the visitor staff for the sideline pass. Everyone's wearing Adidas. This guy's wearing Nike shoes. I mean, again, the details matter here. And again, we're reacting to every detail that surfaces with this story, and it continues to all kind of bubble up to the surface level of this where it's obvious what's going on. And it's just more than standing on the sideline and being with a recruiting coordinator and former Michigan staffers that are now with Central Michigan, who played last night, by the way, and won. Chad, you've got what appears to be the video going on with the sunglasses too. Where does this end? And if this is just the beginning, I can't wait to see where we are 2 or 3 weeks from now with this story and the depths at which they went to obtain information?
I don't think it's ending with Michigan. I think there's going to be way more programs implicated in all of this. Whether it's a South Carolina who took whatever they illegally got in terms of signals, whether it's more Central Michigans out there that allowed Connor Stalions on their sideline to help scout or to help them with an opponent that opponent losing would help Michigan. Connor Stalions is a paid mercenary, it looks like. I don't know how often he was in Ann Arbor or if he was simply some foreign intel officer sent abroad to go and do the dirty work of Michigan football, however would help them across the country, and infiltrated multiple programs doing so. That's what it looks like right now. This Central Michigan piece is damning for both Connor Stalions and Central Michigan. I don't buy Jim McElwain's explanation. It was sort of a half-hearted explanation also. Hutton, I think this is going to end with other programs implicated in this and not just Michigan. And the big basis for all of this, and the thing I keep coming back to, what does that third-party law firm have? What technological information, data do they have on Michigan, on Connor Stalions? What do they have in their possession? Because it was enough that when they handed it over to the NCAA and the Big Ten, the NCAA within a week was on Michigan's campus interviewing every member of their staff.
Because they had a paid staffer on other campuses doing this with a body of evidence that is undeniable. Jim McElwain, head coach at Central Michigan, trying to act like at the podium that they're investigating who this was on his sideline for week 1 at Michigan State.
Before we go any farther, we've obviously are aware of a picture floating around with the sign stealer guy. Our people are doing everything they can to get to the bottom of it. We're totally unaware of it. I certainly don't condone it in any way, shape, or form. And, I do know that his name was on none of the passes that were let out. Now we just keep tracing it back and try to figure it out. But it's in good hands with our people. And again, there's no place in football for that.
Isn't it amazing, Chad? The head coach is just totally unaware of what's going on.
No idea.
No idea who's on their sideline.
I can tell you that we had no one of that name on the pass list that day. If your God-given name is Connor Stalions, what is your made-up alias? Charles Buffalo?
I don't even know.
What is he going with on the sideline?
I don't even know if you need an alias.
This is Chip Stallone. This is a buddy of mine from college. He's going to be here. He's a big Chippewas fan. We got him in complete coaching gear for the game tonight. Just here to watch. Don't worry about that blue laser coming out of his sunglasses he's wearing in pitch black here at night in Lansing, Michigan. Don't worry about any of that. But we don't have any idea who he is. But just know his name is Chip Stallone, and he's here on the sideline.
There may not be a name on the pass. It may just say VS for visitor sideline with some extra passes handed out to the university based on what they're doing over there.
Here is one that I don't know of any no, they were around each other at the same time at Michigan, McElwain and Stalions, I think. They crossed paths at least for one season. But the only possible alibi for McElwain is what you just said, Hutton, that one of his staffers, an assistant coach who he doesn't know about, just handed the guy the pass with no name and said, come on, help us out. And he was, I guess, completely unaware of who was right next to his coaches on the sideline during the game. We talked to someone, and Hutton, I know you've worked sidelines in NFL. I've been at high school football games on the sideline, and if you're getting in the middle of the action, someone's going to ask what you're doing.
But so that pass gives you access from the 30-yard line to the end zone. Yeah. And so when you see these where he's standing, I mean, the offensive line coach and the recruiting coordinator are coming down to that corner of the team area, standing next to him. So he can't go to the middle. He can't go to the 50-yard line with that pass, technically. I'm sure they have another pass they could have handed him. But to act like they don't know who this guy is laughable. Laughable. It's just to think that, you've got Harbaugh, who doesn't know anything about this,
Well, there are so many parts of this.
This guy's on the Michigan sideline too, by the way.
You know, we already know that, everybody, sign stealing happens everywhere. But, okay, yes, in the game, in the stadium.
Right.
Just like a runner at second base looking back at the catcher trying to get a sign, that's happened in baseball forever. And if you're able to pick up on them, great. That's what happens in the game. But it's a far cry from that to going to other stadiums and filming things and then gathering that intel and going back and then helping out not only your program but possibly others.
Well, there's no way
that would help
helping
your program.
CMU in that instance, right?
Of course. And here's where I'm going with this. Like, we know that sign stealing has led to crazy signs being shown during the game, 5 different signal callers during the game, huge black curtains going up behind the signal callers.
Yeah.
We see this with multiple teams across college football. What the hell is going to go on now? A security sweep? A program Secret Service agent that has to go and check every pass and do a retinal scan of everyone on the sideline during a game? Because if I'm seeing this isn't the only time. He didn't just go to watch the Chippewas play Michigan State. He's been on other sidelines, and I'm willing to bet more photos or info will come out about that, Hutton. But think about the level of paranoia of football coaches and how that is going to get amped up to the nth degree. And they are going to be super conscious of everyone on their sideline, not because they are allowing something like this to happen, but because they fear the other team is in cahoots with one of their rivals and something like this could be happening.
But so here's the thing. Is it conceivable that head coaches don't know every person on their sideline? Yes. What's not believable is that Connor Stalions is decked out in Central Michigan gear and he's on their sideline with a visitor pass. Chad, how did we get on the sideline at College Station for the game? You were there for the field storming.
Yeah, Billy Lucci.
Was your name on the pass? No. But that's my point. Like, you can get field access, and you have the same access that he was in. But the difference is you're not in team-issued gear.
Yeah.
While doing so, while working at a different university.
Signs. Yeah.
But while working at a different university with Michigan playing the next day, like that's what they can't explain.
I am surprised.
McElwain's acting like he doesn't know, but that's what he can't explain. He's in team-issued gear.
I'm surprised that Saban didn't have me checked over there when I was down there without a name on my pass on the opposite sideline. I mean, yeah, it's all very suspicious. It's one thing to say, okay, here's a guy in street clothes that's kind of close to my coaches, probably
a media
buddy,
pass or whatever,
probably the parent or a big brother of a recruit or whatever. You've got 1,000 people around the field on game days. You're not thinking much of it. But if I'm the head coach and I look down and I see Jonathan Hutton suddenly dressed just like all the rest of my staff,
right?
I am thinking, who's that guy
Who's
again?
This dude? Right, exactly.
In sunglasses?
That stands out more than just the average person on the sideline to me.
They're going to investigate, though. Don't worry,
They're
guys.
really looking into it.
Jim McElwain and Central Michigan's athletic department, which probably consists of about 8 people, they're on the investigation right now.